Welcome to our conference on social reproductive justice. And we're honored today to have as one of our speakers, Nutan Pandit, who's been teaching birth preparation classes for 44 years, is trained at the National Childbirth Trust in London and Breastfeeding Promotion Network in India, has authored 3 books, one translated into 2 languages. Everything she does has originated from her own personal experience of birthing and breastfeeding her 2 children effortlessly and joyously. Her speaking engagements have been widespread, TV appearances in Delhi, Hyderabad, among others, a paper presented at the Asia Pacific Midwifery Conference in Hyderabad. She's responsible for creating many training programs that have inspired many professionals to become agents of change in their communities. She also practices complementary systems of healing, such as EFT, Bach flower remedies, and acupressure. So let me introduce Nutan, who has a few words to say, and will then begin her talk. Thank you, Nutan.
Thank you, Richard. Well, I would like to add, I also offer courses for women who are pregnant. We have a module of 6 classes to prepare them for labor and birth. Then we have a module for complementary systems of medicine. And we have a module for using cloth nappies, how to fold them, how to launder them. And yes, it's all on our website. You could look for more details there. And shall we start with the conference?
No, certainly.
Now, yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm honored to be speaking here at the University of New York Conference on Reproductive Justice. My name is Nutan L Pandit, and I'm based in New Delhi. And I have been teaching natural childbirth classes for 44 years now, and I will be speaking to you today about indigenous Indian systems and global medicalization of childbirth. Let us for a moment stop and ask, what happened before the allopathic system of medicine came about and saved us, you can say, as they say, saved us. So before the allopathic system came, for thousands of years, we had people healing themselves at home with home remedies. There were housewives that had knowledge on how to heal. There were village healers. There were midwives, and there were lots of other people. Even today, if you go to a typical Indian small community, you may find bone setters. You may find people who diagnose your illness by your pulse, by reading your pulse. You may find people who heal you with pressing certain points in your body. And these points are Mamra points. Comes from something called Mamra Chikitsa, an ancient Indian knowledge. And it is similar to acupressure. You will also find many people who will dispense homeopathic medicines, Ayurvedic medicines to their neighbors, to their friends and their acquaintances. They may even do energy healing. However, all such traditions have been maligned and they have been weakened as the progress of Western pharmaceuticals marches ahead and discounts these systems. However, the Indian government has recognized these indigenous systems and had a body called AYUSH, which was part of the health ministry, but now the AYUSH has been made a separate ministry. AYUSH is an acronym and it stands for Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani, Siddha, and Homeopathy. These are the typical systems of healing that we have prevalent in India in the informal sector. Currently, our Prime Minister in April, on the 20th of April, started something called an AYUSH visa. So people of other nationalities who want to come and avail of traditional Indian systems of medicine can come and are welcome to be healed here. So Prime Minister Modi said that he realizes that traditional medicine complements modern medicine, and he was inspired during the COVID wave when lots of people had various Ayurvedic concoctions to increase their immunity and protect themselves from COVID. However, in childbirth, our government does not have a similar attitude. In childbirth, somehow, again, it is the Western pharmaceutical industry that is winning, and the government has made an effort to shift births to the Western system of, let's say, to the modern medical system. And they are doing whatever they can to disempower the DIs or the traditional birth attendants and to encourage people to deliver in hospitals. Before they make such sweeping changes, it would be good for them to sit and think and pause for a moment that it is easy to uproot and malign old culturally enmeshed systems, but it is very difficult to replace them later. What is it about childbirth that world over people do not want to make decisions and they want to hand their power over, their choices over to the system? This is a worldwide phenomenon. Unfortunately, in India, the younger generation is all about going to the doctor, not about taking grandma's remedies at home. And these grandmas actually have a reserve of it, have a bank of information, knowledge, experience on how to heal things at home. And when this generation of grandmas passes, this knowledge will be lost because the younger generation is just interested in going to the doctor. In India, we also had a very strong Dai tradition. Dai means like a midwife. It would translate as midwife, or they were also called traditional birth attendants. And these traditional birth attendants, they passed their knowledge and skill from mentor to disciple. So there was an apprenticeship training. A woman would attach herself to a practicing Dai and learn hands-on. There were no books, there was no writing, there was no reading. They just learned from plain experience. The Dais depended on their knowledge on Ayurveda. They got a lot of their knowledge and practices from Ayurveda. Let us look at what is Ayurveda. Ayurveda means it translates into life knowledge or life science. Ayurveda is the practice of holistic healing which incorporates standard medical knowledge with spiritual concepts and herbal remedies in treatment as well as prevention of disease. There is a trilogy of Ayurvedic texts, and according to the time of when they were printed, the first is the Charak Samhita, that's the oldest of the lot. And it is a text that speaks of medical education, diet, diagnostics, anatomy, and there's a lot on fetal growth, fetal generation and development. There is also the Shushruta Samhita, which speaks of surgery. They even speak of rhinoplasty, that is nose surgery, plastic surgery for the nose. And then there's the Ashtanga Hridaya, which talks of the 8 limbs of yoga. Anybody who's trained with yoga will be familiar with the 8 limbs of yoga. And in the Ayurvedic texts, for the 3rd month, what it recommends is, in the 3rd month, she, meaning the pregnant woman, should take milk with honey and ghee and shasti, a variety of rice cooked in milk, In the first 3 months of pregnancy, the product of fertilization is in a fluid jelly state, and thus the woman should be given more of liquid or fluids. Also, during these 3 months, the major part of mass is formed. For this, Madura, Shita, Virya substances should be given which help in the formation of the cellular mass and promote growth. This is from the Charak Samhita. And now let us look at how did the authorities view dyes or traditional birth attendants. They viewed them with total condensation. They viewed them with an attitude of, oh God, we can't get rid of them, we have to tolerate them. And they were considered dirty. They were not considered very high in society, and never were they appreciated for the work that they did. It was never thought to impart to them basic knowledge of health and hygiene. Only cases that the dyes couldn't handle were seen by doctors. And then doctors started to say, and they developed an attitude, that midwives always spoil the cases. It wasn't so. They never saw all the good things that the midwives did. And so it says here how the authorities in the 1961 survey, right since the inception of the official notice of dyes, the attitude has been that they are only a stopgap arrangement to be used till the modern system of medicine can reach people. And what did WHO have to say about dyes? So look at the next slide. So WHO says that traditional birth practitioners, including traditional birth attendants, have looked after the health of their communities for generations and will undoubtedly continue to do so for many years to come, given the scarcity of modern healthcare personnel. So again, it talks of lack of modern healthcare personnel, and so the dyes coming in like a stopgap. There was another report that said, in fact, it appears that the public health authorities were forced to come to terms with traditional birth attendants in spite of their efforts to ignore or even eliminate them. There is a need to increase the skill and tradition of traditional birth attendants in view of their influence on the family on the one hand, and the repeated failure of legislation to prevent them from practicing on the other hand, even in many advanced countries of the world. Our government had many programs to actually undermine the dyes, and they started offering money and help for mothers to deliver in the hospital right from the year 2000 up to the year 2016. But from 2000 to 2011, everything was about bringing the dye to the hospital. But in 2016, we had a breath of fresh air in the program called Mother's Absolute Affection program. And this recommends breastfeeding at birth and the importance of the 1 hour after birth. It's a laudable program, and the reasons given by the program to do this is to prevent hypoglycemia in the infants, that is low sugar, hypothermia, low temperature in the infant, and PPH or postpartum hemorrhage or uncontrolled bleeding in the mother. Prior to medicalization, birth was handled by guides or traditional birth attendants, experienced women. So, like if someone was having a baby, she may just call her neighbor to birth the baby for her. Family members, older women would help the younger women, neighbors, the woman herself, because women lived a lot with nature. They often saw their cows and their pets give birth, so they learned from them and they knew what to do. Women from the local community. There were local traditions around birth. There was supposed to be a certain room in certain big homes. They would have a room which had to follow certain specifications if it was for birth. and it needed to have certain equipment if it was to birth. So they had these separate rooms for birthing. Then Ayurveda, a lot of what Ayurveda said was followed. It was a system of health care approximately 3,000 or more years old, based on ancient texts, and other indigenous systems of medicine were also followed, like Unani. Unani has its base in Persia, it's Persian medicine. And Siddha. Siddha is a person, anybody who takes on a topic, studies it thoroughly, and becomes an expert on it. So, in today's language, you could say a PhD. So, a person who's an expert in a particular system of knowledge would take care of birth if they were siddhas of birth. And before the pregnancy test kit came about, how did women know they were pregnant? They rarely went to doctors. The elderly dyes would follow a system called Garbhanari. That is, elderly dyes could detect the pulse of a pregnant woman on the 40th day. Or they did a leaf experiment. The particular leaf was soaked overnight in the mother's urine, and white spots on the leaf confirmed pregnancy, provided the mother did not have any venereal disease. Then there was the honey experiment. A tablespoon of honey is taken by the mother at night. If she is pregnant, she will have griping pains in the lower abdomen in the morning. And these are a list of terms used in Ayurveda that show us the depth of knowledge. And they are from the Charak Samhita, and which is approximately 3,000 to 4,000 years old. There was a term for Vajikarna, which is the name given to male infertility studies. Stree Yoga studies about the disorders of the female reproductive system, or you could say gynecology. Ritu typically translates as season, and it referred to the right time for conception. It was recommended to be between the 4th to the 16th day after the menstrual cycle. Kshetra translates as place, and it referred to the woman's reproductive system, which needs to be free from disorders in order to cause a conception. Shukra meant sperm. Sonita was ovum. Ambu is proper water, liquid nourishment to sustain the fetus. Dhatu was 7 building materials of the body, for example, blood, plasma, muscle, fat, bone marrow, and reproductive fluid. Nagodara was a lack of both of the fetus or prolonged gestation. Garbha, according to Charak Samhita, was the union of the sperm and the ovum and consciousness in the womb. That was called Garbha or fetus. And there were, just a minute, yeah. In comparison to this, let us look at the medical knowledge of obstetrics. This is from Pursuing the Birth Machine by Dr. Wagner, who was a WHO expert on women and child health. And he said, until well into the 20th century, no one knew when in the menstrual cycle conception occurred, where menstrual blood came from, how long an average pregnancy lasted, or how to diagnose the condition of pregnancy. The birth of a baby was not unreasonably considered to be the only sure sign. Until the end of the 19th century, few women had the money or the inclination to seek medical supervision for their pregnancy. Those who did were likely to encounter the hazardous remedy of bloodletting. On the other hand, in Ayurveda, we have a list of signs of pregnancy. Amenorrhea, vomiting, liking for sour foods, lethargy, dizziness, loss of appetite, tiredness, salivary secretions, enlarged abdomen, pigmentation around the nipples, increase in size of genital organs, movement of the fetus, secretion of milk from the breast, and slight edema of the feet, amongst many more. So, Ayurveda also gave information on many other subjects around birth, for example, preconception. So for preconception, for healthy conception, what was recommended is that the man and the woman should belong to different clans or gotras as they were called, and the quality of the child depended on the health and quality of the secretions of the male and the female. The female secretions were supposed to be menstruation and nutrient fluid in the mother's body. And for the male, the liquid, the genital organ liquid of sperm and semen was supposed to be the liquid that was considered. For conception, the best period was considered to be the 12th night after the menstrual flow had stopped. It was also recommended that a man and a woman be in good mental health, feel an attraction towards each other, and are happy. Regarding this, there's a very interesting story about 3 women who conceived a baby from a hermit who practiced a lot of austerity. So this hermit looked very frightening. So one woman who was in acceptance of the hermit and honored him as a learned person and was in gratitude for this opportunity to cohabit with him, produced a very balanced child called Vibur. The other woman got frightened and closed her eyes, and she is said to have given birth to a blind child called Dhritarashtra. And the third woman got pale with fear and gave birth to a pale and sickly looking child called Pandu. So we have so many stories around all of these things that are recommended, and I'm sure there's a wealth of them to be explored. Then about fertility also, Ayurveda was very clear. It said that if a couple decides to have a baby, then they should follow a daily wholesome lifestyle, which was called satnya. And when the couple followed satnya, the temperature of their reproductive organs was the most conducive to conception, and it resulted in a better health of the fetus thus conceived. Then there is a lot of information on what the mother should eat in pregnancy. So she was supposed to eat foods that are sweet. They should be cooling, not as cool as in from the fridge. They should be cooling in their nature, and they should be liquids, like a semi-liquid diet, like milk was highly recommended. It was also recommended to have ghee, particularly medicated ghee in pregnancy. And meat soup was recommended, provided the meat was fat-free. Fat-free meat soup was recommended in the 4th, 5th, and in the 9th month, and also after the birth of the baby, postnatally. What was to be avoided was to be intoxicants like wine, excess of meat, pungent foods that were heavy to digest were not recommended. And care of a pregnant woman was stressed because Ayurveda believed that a woman influences the quality and health of the child she will deliver. So it was recommended that she should be taken care of, and she should not suppress her natural urges. So if she has a natural urge to sleep, she should go to sleep. If she has a natural urge of hunger, she should eat. If she has a natural urge to urinate, she should urinate. She should not suppress any of her urges, because suppression of these urges can create an imbalance within her body of the doshas or the bioenergies. These bioenergies are governed by Vayu, and if you translate Vayu into English, it would be air. Air or Vayu is responsible for all movements in the body, Ayurveda says. All movements like breathing, enthusiasm, body movements, growth, normal body functions like excretion of waste, reproduction, birth. A suppression of these functions can upset the Vayu in a person's body, and that is the bioenergies in the body, and upset the doshas. According to Sushruta, he says Vayu is required to efficiently perform life activities uninterrupted. Unquote. Further, a pregnant woman was asked not to look at or touch unpleasant things or scary things. She was told to avoid strenuous exercise. She was told to avoid travel on uneven roads, avoid sleeping in the day, avoid squatting postures. She was told not to talk in a high-pitched voice and to avoid anger or fear. And she was asked to listen to scriptures, for instance, like the recitation of the Sundarkand part. And people around a pregnant woman were told to satisfy her longings and desires as far as possible. And it was recommended that the woman who's pregnant is made to feel loved. Let us cast an eye over time, over centuries, on birth. And I'm going to screen share again. So this is obstetric mortality rates, again from Pursuing the Birth Machine, Dr. Wagner's book. It is interesting to know that during World War II, there was a tremendous strain on medical facilities, and specialist care of pregnancy and birth nearly came to a stop. At this time, for some unexplainable reasons, obstetric mortality rates fell to an unprecedented degree. This worldwide phenomenon seems to have no explanation. Further, if we look at mortality rates in the Netherlands, where birth is mostly with midwives, the perinatal mortality rate is lower than 10 per thousand. The maternal mortality rate is lower than 10 per thousand, and the cesarean rate is a mere 6%. So in places like the Netherlands and Sweden and Finland, they have a strong tradition of midwifery, and they have lower rates of mortality, they have lower rates of cesarean sections, and they have a very good midwifery system which is based on love, compassion, nurture. We can call it the matriarchal model of care in birth. But most of the world over, we have the patriarchal model of birth, which is based on hospital birth, not home birth like in the Scandinavian countries, and it is based on aggression, it is based on fear, on greed. We need to create a new paradigm away from the patriarchal and the matriarchal model. The new humanistic paradigm that we need to create in birth should be based on peace, compassion, love, tranquility, intuition, allowance. We need to bring in balance the male and the female energies. The male energy represents strife, fight, war, struggle. The female energy represents receptiveness. It is softer, it is compassionate and loving. In each human being, we have the male and the female, and they need to be brought in balance. Click. So the male energy is overpowering, struggling, distrust. And the female energy is receptive, loving, trusting. According to Osho, and I quote, I declare man and woman as equal, not because of any political reason. I declare them equal, otherwise life will be destroyed. World War III can only be avoided if the female energy is released into the world. It cannot be avoided by peace marches and protests against wars or fighting for peace, because that too is the male energy. We need to start with encouraging humanism in birth, from directing the women what to do in labor, how to control the process of birth, and how to go to the hospital at birth. We need to shift to having the woman shift to her intuition and birth in an atmosphere of love and allowance. She wants to deliver in hospital, so be it. She wants to deliver at home, so be it. Or shall we say we should shift more to the midwifery model? So, if we look at evidence over the centuries, this is what comes forth, that the midwifery model is better. We don't need to look at evidence by self-serving studies carried out over a few months or years and financed by people who have a conflict of interest and who cherry-pick their studies to serve their own self-interest. For example, the continuing use of a particular drug or the dosage of a particular drug. Let us look at some slides of ancient birth images and see how was birth earlier. So this is one image. Next. Next. And this is hospital birth as we know it today. What have we done to birth? Just pause and ask ourselves, what have we achieved with modern day obstetrics? Look at the stark difference in the images, from being upright to being lying down like in a stranded fetal position, to being given drips and drugs and being put on monitors and being given injections. What have we achieved with this? Have we stopped losing babies? Are babies not being born handicapped or damaged? The answer to each of these questions is no. Instead, we have today many fancy labels like autism, slow learner, child with special needs. Natural childbirth requires a greater amount of trust, commitment, and perseverance. Caesarean birth involves less time, less work, greater profits. It is this greater profits that has attracted corporates to healthcare. The goal of corporates is profit, not healthcare. This has colored the medical system with all the money, the propaganda, the medical muscle of corporates has made it insensitive to the patient and the needs of the patient. It prioritizes profits over the patient. And why do we call mothers patients? They are just women going through a natural process of their bodies, through a natural, gift that nature has given them of fertility. Nature has also gifted them the power to birth. And we need to trust this power. We need to give women back the faith in themselves to birth, which we have taken away from them. Let us look at this next slide. So, buds uncurl into flowers, fruits ripens, caterpillars emerge from cocoons as butterflies, The same miraculous intelligence makes things happen in your life too. Trust. Trust is what we need. I would like to end with something thought-provoking. Interestingly, in the months before birth, at birth, and in infancy, the baby experiences all of the mother's emotions, whatever she feels and thinks the baby experiences. And that is what the baby hardwires. One can say this is when the baby's hardware programming happens. Thereafter, you can only add on software, but you cannot change the hardware. So let us give our babies good hardware by taking good loving care of women who are pregnant. Let us do what it takes. Indigenous, modern, ultra-modern, ancient, never mind the label. Let us do our best for pregnant women. Let us do the best we can for our babies. Let us do the best we can for humanity. And that has to begin with trust. Trusting nature in the process of birth. We have to urgently empower women to build this trust so that the paradigm of birth can shift away from fear to trust, to love, and to nurture. Thank you.
All right, so do we have any questions? Richard, are you there?
Would anyone like to ask any questions of our speaker? I have a question, Nutan, if I may.
All right.
I mentioned to you that my daughter is planning on starting a family. And her husband, Alex, my daughter's name is Rebecca, is also very interested in helping out any way that he can. Would you have any advice for the fathers in terms of what they can contribute to it?
Well, the both of them should adopt a healthy lifestyle, healthy eating, sleeping early, and spend some time every day to invite a good soul to themselves. A good soul with a good destiny and a good whatever they want from their child. They should paint a picture and invite that kind of soul to them. So they can set aside a little time, maybe 10 minutes. I know people find it difficult, life is busy, but a little while when you switch off all digital stimulation, no phones, no laptops, no nothing, and switch off Wi-Fi and close your eyes and do a little meditation and try and connect with the baby that you want in your life and invite that baby to your home.
All right, I'll advise her, and also to watch again some of your videos and watch this video as they begin to plan. I mentioned to you that we had visited India. Yeah, she was with me, and I think it was probably her most powerful experience was our 2 weeks in India.
Oh, she came with you to India?
Oh yes, yeah. And I say she loved the experience.
Right.
Yep.
So like it said Satmya, in my talk I said what Ayurveda recommends is Satmya, a regulated, simple lifestyle, healthy eating, if she can eat organic foods. more of less of packet foods, more of foods made from scratch at home.
Well, she got a degree in nutrition. And so
Oh,
she's a nutritionist at a school district in Colorado.
oh wow.
And so she very, very careful in terms of what they eat.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so, but thank you very, very much for participating.
Thank you.
This was very, very enjoyable. And my thanks also to your technician. And thanks to my technicians here.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.